All right. Got that started. Red Panda Koala, how are you? Thanks for joining us. Continuing the scrolling on down, who do we got here? Jeff Steve Garvey, the gorgeous Deanna, Jim Morris, Mama Susan. Oh, wow, we got the whole team here tonight. And there's Davey. There's Middle Child. Been a while for you, Middle Child. Good to have you back. And who else? Luscious Jules, nice to see you. We are caught up. Remember, everyone, a great way to support what we do is to hit that subscribe button, ring that bell, and, of course, the Super Chat is open. It's a great way to support what we do on a nightly basis here. Hi, Excalibur, how are you, man? Thank you for joining us. Also, if you haven't already, follow us on social media at Spaced Out Radio on Twitter, at Spaced Out Radio Show on Instagram. Jay King is our guest tonight. We are 8 seconds away from rocking this thing out. Gorgeous Jennifer P., nice to see you. Everyone, get your horns up. Let's rock. From the snowy mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair at SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and it's our 1-year anniversary on KPNL. All of our archives are free. Go to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. You can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. It's all about the experience tonight, as Jay King is a community manager and artist who co-founded the Experiencer Group with Stuart Davis and Kirsten Blackburn. In recent years, Jay began doing work for the ufology researcher and historian Richard Dolan. During the pandemic, Jay became heavily involved in hosting and co-hosting a network of private, confidential support groups for fellow experiencers of anomalous phenomena. Through that work, he felt a calling that was heavily in need for experiencers to have a larger private community to share, learn, and grow. And what a community it is. Jay King, welcome to Spaced Out Radio for the first time. How are you?
Doing great. Thanks for having me here. It's wonderful to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Well, I'm glad we actually had you here, because earlier today, I can't believe it, man, it was snowing here. It's not even mid-October. And I'm having to deal with the elements here, but everybody says, that's why you live in Canada. What do you expect from living in Canada? You're a Canuck. You're used to this stuff. I had to put socks on today, my friend. It was terrible. Terrible.
Yeah, it's that time of year when it goes from flip-flops into socks and layers. And, you know, I'm out here in coastal New Jersey, and it's similar, you know, like the gusty winds and everything like that. But it's great to be here tonight.
Well, we're glad you're here, because I don't know how familiar you are with our show. I know I've seen you in the chat room before, checking us out, wondering what we're all about. But I can tell you this, we are a land of experiencers here. And we are somebody who really looks to hear the story, because in the end, I'm a firm believer and we'll get into this deeper later on in the show, but I'm a firm believer that us experiencers of the unknown are the ones who deep down psychologically actually hold the answers that everyone is looking for, whether it's UFOs, Sasquatch, ghosts, whatever it is. I'm a firm believer in that, my friend.
Well, I mean, at the very least, I think I agree with you that you know, this whole field, parapsychology, woo, nuts and bolts, ufology, anything in this arena, it wouldn't be what it is without experiencers. If people didn't see something and then say something, then this whole field would be moot, right?
Bingo.
Like, yeah, 100%. So if nothing else, I think that there's, and we can get into this later, that there's been a decentralization with regard to experiencers that needs to be rectified in terms of like why, what, who, where, when, all of those things, right? And it doesn't need to be a game of telephone with authors and respected researchers. There are a lot of well-spoken experiencers that can speak for themselves.
I want to ask you, why did you figure out it was time for you to speak up? Why did you feel that you needed to be one of the trigger people at the front of putting together a very private and exclusive experiencers group, which is a forum online? We'll talk more about that later. But, I mean, that's a big step for a lot of people. And when you go public in this field, you know, you're a professional guy. You know, you're somebody who has a career outside of this. You put things on the line when all of a sudden you start talking about them aliens.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I wouldn't have done it necessarily, and I certainly wouldn't have done it now if it wasn't for Ralph Blumenthal. There was a point, and we can get into this later, but over the course of last year with the pandemic and things, I got really, really heavily involved in these private support groups for fellow experiencers, abductees, contactees, and eventually it turned into its own member site after having worked with Richard for a while and things like that. And Leslie Kane came on board and was around for some really early meetups and things like that. And she kind of passed word to Ralph. And if it wasn't for Ralph, I wouldn't have done this. I would have been really, really happy doing the confidential situation. I was really happy being a private source for people. I was really happy just arranging things behind the scenes. But when somebody like Ralph Blumenthal, you know, somebody that was a bureau chief for the New York Times, the guy that did that with Leslie and Helene Cooper, arranged that whole bombshell front page New York Times article back in December 2017, the ATIP article with those cockpit videos, those big world famous cockpit videos. You know, when a guy like that asks you, hey, what do you think? Can we do this? It makes you think twice, you know? And so that's why I did this, you know? If it wasn't for him, and if it wasn't for what he kind of believed about my case and the other cases in that article, and what he believes with regard to that biography that he did on John Mack, that he worked for 16 years on, like he really believes in what we're doing. He really believes in what John Mack was doing. He's there, right? The book was called The Believer, and it's called The Believer for a reason, if that makes any sense. So when a guy like that says, hey, you know what, maybe it's time. I didn't feel a lot of pressure from him, but I felt a lot of pressure from the community to come forward and hopefully make a difference.
For you, as you embark on this path publicly now, you know, everybody's going to be saying, what's your story? What's your gig? What are you getting out of this? Why did you feel that now was the time? I understand it's hard to say no to Ralph Blumenthal, but for you, was there something that triggered you inside when you thought deep down and said, you know what, I think it's time to let it go, let the privacy go, and just be me out in public, because this is a big part of who I am, and I'm holding this in?
Yeah, I think I appreciate that question. I think a lot of experiencers, maybe yourself included, they feel like they're living in two worlds. They have feet in two worlds. There's consensus reality. There's the world that when they go to the grocery store, when they go to their day job, when they go hang out with their third cousins or whatever, you know, that version of reality, the version of reality that you read about in the newspaper, And then there's the lived experience, the stuff that happens late at night, this wider realm, these subtle realms, these overlapping realms, like that world. And we have 2 feet in 2 separate worlds, but then there's legs and they need to go somewhere. There needs to be some kind of unifying point, right? And so I recognize that a lot of people like myself, like a lot of people in our community, privately, behind the scenes, have been gaslit for years, decades, centuries. People have been hospitalized, people have been over-medicated, people have committed suicide over things like this, over just reporting what they knew to be their lived experience. They spoke out because they felt vulnerable, and they spoke those vulnerable truths to other people, and they got a lot of heat for it, right? And there's a point where that just really needs to stop. There's going to be a period of time where that still exists, but we need to get to a point where we can at least reach out to the people around us, our loved ones. You don't have to believe me, but if you can look around you, look at your brothers and sisters, your spouses, your loved ones, and say, hey, maybe Aunt Kathy did see a ghost. If we can grow it up that way organically, then maybe we can get to a better place with all this.
So I know it's only been a couple of weeks since that article came out, but what reaction have you received personally from people both inside and outside of your own personal circle?
So far, it's been really good. Knock on wood, or at least whatever this plywood desk is that I'm knocking right now. But it's been overall kind of pretty positive. It's been more positive than I thought. I think that I was aided in that I deactivated my Facebook the night before the news went public, before Ralph's article went public. So there was that. I felt like I didn't need my 8th grade Spanish teacher to know about this. I didn't need that to be kind of a nexus point. But because of places like the Experiencer Group, places like having these kind of private areas to go and speak, it became easier because I could be like present day Jay 24/7, and that helped a lot. So, there were some people on Twitter, like, oh, this is a psyop or whatever. It's so funny being the age I'm at and having followed this community followed ufology for decades, just because I was trying to figure what the heck was going on with my life, following this stuff and like looking at what's a psyop, is this a psyop, is this a psyop, and I'm like looking at myself, I'm like, am I a psyop? And it's hilarious in a lot of ways, because it's like, how layered would that have to be for Ralph Blumenthal to be a bureau chief at the New York Times for, he was there for 45 years. And then he comes out in public and says like, hey, I'm frustrated. I can't get this article published by the place that I was a bureau chief. Right. And these people are involved. Like there's so much layering involved, that like, if that was a psyop, it would be, I don't know, like this crazy 7-layer wedding cake, right? That the world's too chaotic for that kind of stuff as far as I'm concerned. And I look at myself and anyway, whatever. But like in general, people have been great, and people have been supportive. People have been respectful. I think there's a shifting tone online, even on Twitter and things like that, which is kind of a hexscape for situations like this. People have been overall incredibly respectful and incredibly supportive, more so than I thought.
Well, you
more so.
you got to be careful with the whole Twitter thing. I mean, that could turn on you in a heartbeat. That's one thing that I learned the hard way, all because I decided early and often to ask people to wait and see what happens with the TTSA and didn't support them right off the bat. So I totally get with what you're going there. And you have to be critical. You have to be resourceful in who you are siding with and who you're not. And so far, you're doing things well. And I'm glad to hear that you are getting the support that you need, because the one thing that I have learned throughout this community is that the old guard that's been around for a while, they don't seem to like newbies. When I was a newbie, they were all like, who's this guy? I got called a PSYOP earlier, or a CIA agent. I always thought that was funny, but just for confirmation, you're not a CIA agent or part of some sort of alphabet agency with fantastic hair and beard combination like that, are you?
No, not at all. Not at all. I mean, yeah, if they're hiring people like me, they got bigger problems. You know what I mean?
Oh, I know the feeling. I know the feeling all too well. Jay King is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. Jay, we got about 8 minutes before we got to go to break at the bottom of the hour, and I kind of want to start to get into your story here, because that's really why we're here. I mean, you are someone who started having contact at a very early age, and it is something that has stuck with you through your adult life. Take us back in time, my friend, to let us know how this started for you.
All right. Well, to start, there's a few key important components to consider with my history of the anomalous. One is that it's more than one modality. The big blaring headline is that I've had classic abduction experience. The thing is, though, is that people are gradually becoming aware of this. A lot of experiencers have more than one form of contact, or have a history that's more broad than just having one pivotal event, right? For example, people might be surprised at the amount of people that have had UFO or so-called UFO experience that have also come across what are termed as ghosts or other seemingly interdimensional encounters. Something that seems to be penetrating from some other realm, some other layer of reality, right? And perhaps that shouldn't be so surprising, and there are a lot of theories and possibilities about why that may be the case. I myself, I don't have answers, though. Just big questions and some lived experience. Anyway, in the old days, like 50, 60, 70 years ago, people were automatically discounted if they had more than one crazy experience, right? Now we know that that's actually often more the exception than the norm. So anyway, that's all a little bit of backstory to say that my very first experience is even anomalous within my own history. My first experience that I can recall was when I was about 4 years old. I was in my bedroom in Fort Wayne, Indiana. It was daytime, and I was in my bedroom, and I was shoving a plastic bin of toys across the floor when two strange, semi-translucent, like kind of wildly elongated figures blipped into the room, just in front of and to the left of me by about 6 feet. To my perception, they were tall and they were skinny. They actually kind of looked like the forms from like the Predator or the Abyss, that kind of water droplet look, and had some kind of strange shimmering and a little bit of interior light. So I don't know if that's what some people term as energy or light beings or something like that, but they were there. One seemed more male and one seemed more female. And they immediately started communicating with me in some kind of like telepathic bond that seemed to communicate warmth and even love or something like that. And they seemed to communicate that they were doing it then because for some reason later it wouldn't be as possible to do it. And they were talking about time. And, I was a 4-year-old kid or something, and I was 3 or 4 years old, and I was just like, okay, like I didn't know what to think about this. So after about a minute, there was like some other kind of energy transference that happened, and then they just blipped out after about a minute. And the thing was, I still to this day, I have no idea who those beings were. No clue whatsoever. And I don't know why they were there. I don't know why then. I don't know if they had any connection to me in some grander scheme or anything like that. I don't pretend to have any answers that way. But it was my first experience, and I immediately ran to my mom in like the kitchen and was like, "Mom, mom, 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 mom." And she was really kind to me about it. And she started talking to me about how imaginary friends exist, right? And so immediately I knew that there was some kind of schism in some way between what was happening and the way that it was perceived. But even with my very next contact experience and hers, we had a shared experience after this, and it kind of bridged the gap. So, yeah.
At least you had that support system of your mom. A lot of people don't have that. And I mean granted, she said right off the bat that you have imaginary friends, but then the experience you had with your mom, I mean, how did that change everything?
Well, my mom is, according to me, a saint, and we've had shared experiences over decades, on and off, and it has been an enormous help. And for any other experiencers out there, you know that the second that anybody else shares an experience with you, it is such a forgive the parlance, but a godsend, whether or not you believe in God, because, it is so difficult out there feeling by yourself about this kind of stuff. So when you share an experience like this, it becomes this deeply meaningful situation. So the very next experience that I had was when I was about 6 years old, and we moved into a haunted house in Mishawaka, Indiana. My mom, my dad, my little sister, and I. And I don't know where we are with your next break, but I can go into that now, or I can go into it after.
We got
2 minutes. Okay. So basically, the deal was that we moved to Mishawaka, Indiana. Like the very first night, we got in really late. It was this big, old, huge, to me at this age, I was about 6 at this point, house, and it was right across from the St. Joseph's River. For anybody that knows that area, and the movers used hand carts to get out my dad, who is an engineer, get out all of his old kind of engineering manuals and books and stuff like this, all these old book boxes, and they stacked them up, and they dragged them with a hand cart down into the basement and just left them there as pillars. And those book boxes were like pinning in our beds. So then we got out our beds, and we slept that night. In the morning, I woke up and there was commotion downstairs, and my mom had gone downstairs and she had found these book boxes spread out in like a checkerboard pattern over the basement, right? And that was, or evenly spaced. And she immediately knew I couldn't have done it. I was asleep and I couldn't have picked them up. My 18-month-old baby sister couldn't have done it. My dad couldn't have done it, just from where he was, and she didn't do it. So unless there was some like ornery neighbor doing some really strange intimidation move using these book boxes, then there was something going on. And later that day, the move continued, and she found the oven door open and blasting heat out. And she immediately went from being somebody that didn't even have this stuff on her radar to literally, according to her, voicing, "This is my house now. You can't do this anymore."
I'm going to get you to hold on right there, Jay, because when we come back on Spaced Out Radio, what's it like to have an experience? What's it like to be an experiencer of more than one phenomena? Jay King is our guest tonight from the Experiencers Forum. It's a great group. Let's talk it up. not a subject in the closet anymore. We're experiencers. All right, man, we're clear. We got 5 minutes.
All right, great.
Yes.
I hope that was good for you. It was good for me.
That's a good start right there, man. Good, solid start. Yes, Big Willie, I just thought of that at the same time you did, man. That's got to be a shirt. I'm Chad Effin Smith. That's right.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're pretty sure he's not the Chili Peppers guy, right?
Yeah,
we know that, right?
We're positive. You haven't received the power of Chad Smith yet.
I mean, I've heard about him. Even this Chad Smith I've heard about.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Yeah, it's it's a hard power for one man to have, and he does a good job of it. It's admirable. Totally admirable.
Has anybody sent him any drumsticks or anything like that?
No, but he does. There are a couple of T-shirts between us and UFO Garage that is promoting the hell out of Chad Smith.
All right. Well, I'm not going to feel too bad then.
Yeah, he only signs in gold Sharpie now. Only signs in gold Sharpie. That's where we got with him. Yeah. Can't make that stuff up.
That's a quick transition then.
Hey, sometimes it's like winning the lottery, man.
It's true.
It's like winning the lottery. Sometimes you can be Chad Smith, and otherwise you're just out the door.
Oh, man. So we got like 3 minutes left?
Yeah, about 3.5, 4, somewhere in there.
Right. So do you just want to keep going chronologically?
Yeah, I just what I kind of do is I just kind of let the conversation morph. I don't script anything.
Sure.
It's just makes it more fun and conversational. We may double back a couple of times. I mean, I live in the Canadian boonies, man. I mean, you could go in circles like anything around here. As long as you're having fun, that's the main thing.
Oh my gosh, I'm having a blast. It's great to be here with you. And thanks for the call earlier. That was really nice.
Oh, no worries, man.
Appreciate it.
No worries. That's what we like to do here. It's what we like to do.
For anybody that's overhearing us on YouTube, hello. Great to see you. Thanks for joining us tonight.
They're good people in there.
They are. I've noticed. I can't out anybody from the experiencer group that are there, but I know that there are a few, and I appreciate them showing up, and I appreciate everybody else showing up as well.
Yeah, no, we got good people in here, and if anybody decides that they want to get rude or testy or whatever, this group usually takes a good chunk out of them right off the bat.
All right, that's good to hear.
Hi, The Quick. How are you? Welcome back. Lisa Butterlone, welcome to our channel. And who else we got here? Lots of people so far. D. Ocean Swagger looking lovely tonight. I didn't see any bears the last time I went in the forest. Nope. Try and get out there this weekend. Jose, what's happening, buddy? The lovely and talented Tracy Benna has returned.
Oh, we got a Yins. All right. I see what's happening.
Oh, the gorgeous and proud Texan Alicia Carey Wyatt is back. Lee, how you doing? Welcome to our channel, man. Thank you for checking us out. Appreciate you, Lee.
Thanks, Lee.
And thank you. My shirt is courtesy of Spookles the Cat, which is there's a restaurant called Space Aliens in North Dakota. So she got me the shirt. I figured this was a good night to wear it. Because, I mean, if you don't have aliens, I mean, what are you supposed to do? You got aliens, I got aliens. You know, just the way it is.
I like it. I appreciate the elongated fingers. It's a good look.
Hey, UAP, welcome to our channel. I want to say a big thank you to Space Cow and Nicola for the super chats. It's a great way to support what we do here on the show. Fiddleback Guy, nice to see you. And remember, hit that subscribe button, ring that bell if you're new. Hi, Mr. Moocher. Here we go. Second half hour is underway on Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears. Want to remind you that if you miss portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot. Read up on Shirky Poo's Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on tonight talking the experience. The experiencers speak tonight. Jay King is with us. And just a couple of weeks ago, Jay was featured in an article by Pulitzer Prize winner Ralph Blumenthal on the debrief.org website about experiencers and what role they play in today's ufology. Because one of the things that we have talked about a lot on this show over the last couple of years is how the experiencers have kind of been swept aside by ufology because of the government interaction, because of the way we're more interested in the technology, and because of the fact that the narrative says that even though these craft that people are seeing may be UAP, it doesn't mean that there's little gray dudes flying them inside, which I always like to say in rebuttal. Once you've got aliens, it's always aliens. And if you've never had aliens, it's never aliens. Jay, welcome back.
Thanks so much for having me, Dave. It's a pleasure to be here.
Let's get into the article with Ralph Blumenthal, because
Sure.
This was a coming out party for you as an experiencer. And, you know, I thought he did you a lot of justice, as well as the other experiencers on the panel. And you can read the article at thedebrief.org. But for you, getting out there and hearing somebody like Ralph Blumenthal ask you questions about what it's like, what does it feel like, how do you keep your sanity? I mean, all those sorts of questions that a good journalist would ask. How did you feel about that?
Well, it was a very surreal experience. The actual experiences themselves had a very palpable level of surrealness, and a palpable level of trauma. But even just recounting them with Ralph Blumenthal was really trippy, to be honest with you. He has been looking into this stuff for quite a while. One of the things that people don't recognize is that, almost 4 years ago, in December of 2017, he and Leslie Kane and Helene Cooper had that big front page New York Times article, the big ATIP article that helped put Lou Elizondo on the map and put all those cockpit videos on the map and put the ATIP program on the map, all that. And there were other articles that came after that, and maybe still will, from him and Leslie on the New York Times. Right now, there's kind of a little bit of friction about this kind of stuff. And the thing is that, when somebody like that gets in touch with you, and it's felt like you've had, no pun intended, a very alienated experience with life, where people tell you that what you experienced didn't happen, or what you experienced wasn't real, things like that, right? And you know that it did on some level. You know that it did. At least some of it did. There's always a subjectivity that happens there, but my case is really specific for some people in that there are a lot of corroborative witnesses for some of these encounters. So when Ralph Blumenthal got in touch and started interviewing, he was actually not easy at the outset. And I grew to appreciate that about him. He was and I've never said this before, but he was honestly, and I think he would appreciate me saying this, he was honestly trying to trip me up. For the first few hours of interviews, he kept going back and forth and doing what any good investigative reporter, any good even detective might do, and trying to trip me up with dates, with details, things like this. And I was initially kind of frustrated about that. I was initially frustrated that I was kind of giving my account in this very vulnerable way, in this very public framework, where it was going to get the understanding at that point was that this story was going to get published in the New York Times. Okay. It was originally slated to get published in the July 4th Sunday edition of the New York Times. All right. So that in and of itself felt like a strangely historic benchmark, right? Going into this. And so I felt like I was in a uniquely vulnerable position. There were 5 people. Actually, at that point, there were 6 people that were going to be profiled, as I recall, in this article. Is that right? Or 5 people profiled in this article, and one person dropped out, and for their own reasons that I won't go into. But I grew to appreciate that Ralph really kind of like initially dragged me through the coals a little bit and did what he would normally do with somebody that he might be suspicious of, or the public might be suspicious of. We grew to appreciate each other in a unique way, I think. I don't want to mischaracterize Ralph, but I think that's true.
As a journalist myself, I would say he was being professional.
Absolutely. And when a guy like he's written books on the mob, like his Pulitzer was for the first World Trade Center attack back in 1993. Like, this is a guy that's been around the block. He worked for the Times for 45 years. He was a bureau chief. That's not his only award. He's got a lot, and so when somebody like that, especially with his track record with ufology and everything like that, when he comes at you, then it makes you pay attention, and it's a unique and humbling experience. I'll tell you that for sure.
For sure. Now, the fact that this story didn't get into the New York Times, but it ended up going online, I think still carried a lot of weight because of Ralph's, pedigree that he has with anything he writes. When you were chatting with him, did he feel like he was truly interested in learning about the phenomena, or was he very direct with his approach in trying to figure out if this experience or crap is real?
He seemed like, and again, I don't want to put words in Ralph's mouth. He has plenty of words and plenty of brain power himself. I don't need to do that. But he, at that point, I later learned, had been working on his John Mack book. He recently wrote this biography on John Mack called The Believer, right? I have it right here. And he worked on that book for 16 years. And he had access to John Mack's archives for almost all of that time. And so he had all this minutia. He had all these notes from that John used to kind of suss out experiencers, right? And so there were little details that Ralph later talked to me about that were like, oh yeah, that was one thing that was kind of like in the list. And I won't enumerate them, but it appeared it came very clear to me very early on that Ralph Blumenthal, and a lot of people don't know this, the reason that he and Leslie know each other is because of alien abduction experiencers. Leslie Kane was Bud Hopkins' partner,
right,
or companion for years before Bud died. And of course, Bud Hopkins was a pioneering alien abduction researcher and ufologist in general. Wrote classic books like Missing Time, which is one of the best books in the genre, even now. And Ralph had already been working on this John Mack case, and so he actually met Leslie, he told me, through his research into John Mack. He had already been working on the biography, and that's how they met. Because Bud was still alive. Leslie was with him, and Ralph was going to Bud to get some quotes about John. And that's how he met Leslie. And so this whole history, the whole ATIP article, this whole series of articles with the New York Times, it all came about because of Leslie and Ralph bonding over people like John Mack and Bud Hopkins, which is something that a lot of ufology, a lot of the names in ufology don't appreciate.
Leslie Kean, though, does have a weird history with this, from Bud Hopkins to her ties to not only Robert Bigelow, but a number of different, major players in UFOs, not only as a journalist, but helping set up other areas of the phenomena and as well. I mean, I would love to pick her brain. I just would love to pick her brain because she has her fingers in everything. It's like ufology is this giant ball of cookie dough, and Leslie King's fingers are all over it. So, it would be very interesting to see what she hasn't printed compared to what she has. That's for sure. But I want to ask you, as we continue on here with this, let's get into the experiencers, because technically that's kind of why you're here to talk about this, so we might as well talk about it. In your estimation, what is an experiencer? Because mine, just so you know, I don't consider somebody who sees a little dot in the sky flying and maybe does a quick turn to the left as a full-on experiencer. I see them as, somebody who has had a sighting, but not an experiencer. So what's your definition?
I tend to use a similar definition that John Mack did. And I figure, if he came at this being the well-regarded psychiatrist that he was, that went into this for so many years, that he must have had some insight, and he did. And as far as I understand it, his gauge was largely based along the idea of ontological shock, right? The idea of having an experience that's so weird that you experience a form of trauma or a shift, realizing that consensus reality, or the reality that you live in, is not quite what people have told you. And it happening through something that seems paranormal and deeply strange. These kinds of high strangeness, high weirdness events. So myself, I'm particularly broad about my definition of this. It could be out-of-body experiencers, near-death experiencers, ET experiencers, UFO experiencers, cryptids, and precognition. There are a lot of people that have experience even with remote viewing and things like that. Do they all count? I think they do, because these are people that realize that the wheelhouse of reality, the fundamental nature of reality, is bigger than what we see in day-to-day life at work or at the grocery store. And they found it through these kind of strange pathways. And to me, those are my kin. That's my family. Those are my friends. Those are my people.
So the fact that people are having these strange experiences, occurrences, whether it's, I'll use terminology our audience is used to, whether it's paranormal, supernatural, cryptid, or extraterrestrial, is there a difference between what people are experiencing, say, on the paranormal realm comparatively to the extraterrestrial realm?
Yeah, I mean, one thing that has come across a lot, even just in the last, it's been a really wild 18 days, Dave, since this article has come out. And a lot of people have approached me and talked to me about my case, my account, things like that. And specifically, some people have pointed out that poltergeist phenomena and UFO phenomena or ET phenomena often go together, right? That there's an overlap there. And I can't help but agree with them because that's my lived experience, right?
May I please cut you off there and just ask you a quick
Sure.
question about that? Why do you
Of
think
course.
so many then, because I'm a multiple experiencer like you. I've seen Sasquatch, I've seen shadow people, I've seen ghosts, I've seen UFOs, I've seen extraterrestrials, all right? Why do so many people, though, in this field have a hard time understanding that there are many of us out there that have run the gamut of seeing almost everything that the strange and weird has to offer us? Because this is a bone of contention with a lot of people who are critical towards experiencers.
Yeah, I agree with you. That's definitely the case. And I think partly what it comes down to is that there are some people, and again, like, I don't have answers. I just have hypotheses. I have lived experience. But from what I see, there are some people that for whatever reason, their physiology, what happens early, whatever, the filters get widened a little bit. And there's a lot of theories about why that may be the case, right? Because, say, imagine this, right? None of us hear as well as a dog does, right? We all have there are filters around all of our senses, right? But what if there was an evolutionary bias with those senses so that we really sensed what we needed to get by? And there was a lot of other stuff that was going on. Colors, sounds, possibly other forms of life, right? They got filtered out just so that we could go to work, go to sleep, do what we needed to do to survive, right? And then what if it was the case that some of those people, maybe within that evolutionary bias, there was a situation where it's like, if you're young and something strange happens, imagine that you encounter a snake. It's a ghost snake, but it's a snake. And then, for whatever reason, your brain, your bias, your evolutionary bias says, okay, we're going to filter in the ghost snakes now, right? We're going to open up the horse blinders a little bit, right? And then you go through your life, and then maybe you see a little bit more than the usual, right? And maybe it's as simple as that. I don't know. I have no idea why this happens, but I do know that when people see one thing, it's much more likely that over time, these events, these situations, these contact modalities, they'll compound and they'll add up on each other, as in your case and as in my case and in many other cases.
But for those who are already critical of the belief of not only the experience that aliens are coming down or wherever they're coming from to take people and do heinous projects on them. I mean, they can barely believe that, let alone somebody, whether it's you, whether it's me, or anybody else, can, 1 month be having interaction with ghosts and spirits, and the next month it's fairies, and the next month it's UFOs. Anytime they walk outside, they're seeing craft. I mean, it sounds so illogical, yet it is happening.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you, and one of the things I empathize with those people. I get it, there are a lot of bridges to cross when you start getting into this realm, and it becomes much easier if you experience them yourself, and I can understand the unique logical or intellectual challenges of working through this stuff if you don't come across it, right? And at the same time, there's an issue where when you look at Ralph Blumenthal, right? He and Leslie and Helene, they published those cockpit videos about 4 years ago. And I don't know, the overwhelming amount of online ufology, say 70% of the younger folks on UFO Twitter or whatever, they're still hung up on that. They're still there. They're still back in December 2017. They don't understand that Ralph Blumenthal, he published this book, he published this article, he's been working on it for 16 years. He was already there. Jacques Vallée, he did Passport to Magonia back in the late 60s, right? He turned 82 a couple weeks ago. So there are a lot of young kids that they haven't done the basic reading. They haven't done their research. They don't know the cases. And what they don't recognize is that they're struggling to keep up with these people that are in their late 70s and early 80s. That's what is actually happening here. They're struggling to keep up with people that have given them gold, and it's just sitting there. They're just sitting there in these books. These books like Bud Hopkins, Intruders, John Mack, Abduction, The Believer, Missing Time, Passport to the Cosmos, Passport to Magonia. There's so many. The Invisible College, all of these books, they're just sitting there, and they have all the information, or a lot of information. Not everything, because we don't have all the answers. But there's so much data that's sitting there, and then people are sitting here just looking at cockpit videos, right? It's ridiculous. Where's the cockpit video with the gray in it? How do you even know that the gray exists? You know that the gray exists because of people like Bud Hopkins. You know the gray exists because of people like Betty and Barney Hill. That's how you know about the grays. You don't know about them because of David Fravor. So, people need to bridge that gap. There needs to be more conversation. There needs to be more reading. There needs to be more studying happening in a broader way that can't just be articulated through podcasts, to be honest with you.
No, very true.
You know what I mean? The conversation needs to get bigger.
But that conversation also has to hit mainstream as well. And until people are willing to accept the fact that with UFOs will come aliens one way or another, it doesn't matter what Lou Elizondo says or Chris Mellon says or the government says or the TTSA or whomever, one will coincide with each other eventually. And when we get to that point, let's just hope that the public is ready, because I don't think they are, and that's a discussion we can have when we come back here, man. But, I mean, quick 10-second answer. Do you think the public is really ready for extraterrestrial life on Earth to find out it's real?
They're much more ready than the journalists think they are. That's what I think.
Wow. We will agree to disagree on that. And we'll have some fun with that when we come back on Spaced Out Radio. 1 hour down already. Fast-moving show here tonight. Experiencer Jay King is our guest tonight, and he has an experiencer group online. It's, it's kind of hidden, but he's got some brilliant people in there who just kind of share their thoughts on the entire ET phenomena. We'll be back with ET Talk when we return for hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio. So make sure you stay tuned if you got aliens or not. All right, my friend, we got 6 minutes.
All right.
6 minutes, so, yeah, we got some time here.
Good deal.
Oh, there is fedora-wearing John Hudson right there.
Hey, John. Thanks for turning me into Frankenstein. Highly appreciated.
And
yep.
Spooky there with a nice super chat. Yeah, John's one of the good dudes in this field. I mean...
Oh, clearly.
Yeah, I mean, he can't grow a mustache worth anything, but, I mean, he's a good guy. We'll forgive him for the mustache thing. Jeff Adams, welcome to the chat room. Thank you.
Thank you, Spooky. If you're ever on the East Coast, we can talk about hanging out for sure.
Absolutely.
Doesn't have to, and it doesn't even have to cost $4.99.
All right.
Nice to see you here.
Can you read the chat room?
I can see what you got up on the.
So if you go up on the right hand side of the screen, it'll say private chat and then comments.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, there you can. I'm just going to step away. I'm going to go to the bathroom, take a quick bathroom break here, and I will be right back. And you can chat with the audience here.
Okay, great.
That'll be good. Hi, Chillin' Charlie. Welcome to our channel.
Hey, Bob. It's great to see you. I know that you're going to be on the show tomorrow, and I know that we have a fair amount of history together, and it's great to see you here tonight. Hi, Kira. Thank you very much. Great to see you here tonight. Filthy says, I look like the singer of Toril. I don't know Toril, but I'll take it as a compliment for now. If I see that Toril, the singer of Toril, doesn't look so great later, I'll get back to you about that. Thanks, Abe. Appreciate it. Hey, Chad Smith. You know, even though you're not the drummer for the Red Hot Chili Peppers, I appreciate you for who you are. I'm just going to go grab a water. I'll be right back, and I will be happy to hang out with you all in 2 seconds. Hopefully none of you saw that I'm actually wearing shorts on the bottom of this jacket and shirt combo. And if you did, hopefully that'll stay between us. I have seen UFOs during my experiences. You can hear about one of them that's corroborated by another person at the end of... I did a podcast anonymously through a podcast that Stuart Davis does that's amazing called Aliens and Artists. I did that in January. We actually shot it in September, and it was published in January. It was published anonymously. It's under Anonymous Experiencer 1, and you can hear about that. But you can hear a little bit about my sighting of UFO craft there, just between us.
All right.
Hey, Dave.
Hey, how you doing, buddy?
Doing pretty good. How are you doing?
Good. You having fun with the audience here, or what?
Oh, man, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
They're great.
They're pretty awesome. They're pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kirsten Blackburn, for that wonderful super chat. Really appreciate your support of SOR. Thank you. And also thank you to Spooky, to Science Bob, Patrick, Alicia, Space Cow, and Nicola. It's a great way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. So much love to each and every one of you. And thank you to all the veterans out there who are tuning us in. And if you're listening for the first time, thank you so much. I just want to remind you guys, we are a live radio show, which is why we take commercial breaks at the top and bottom of the hour. We're not an ordinary podcast, so to speak. So that's why you're kind of hearing the behind-the-scenes stuff here on YouTube and Twitch and our podcast, Spreaker. So it's a little bit different, but you get the real good stuff during outside of the breaks. Welcome, Kaiju. How are you, buddy? Good to see you, and thank you for joining us. Who else is here? We have Zero Cool. Nice to have you back. B. Hoff. Good to see you back. Let's see here. As time is running out. Oh, we got a lot of stuff. Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to point out that Kirsten Blackburn, who's on screen right now, is one of my co-founders of the Experiencer Group, along with Stuart Davis.
Hold on one sec, buddy.
Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Want to remind you that if you missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do us the favor, hit that subscribe button. And of course, we want to say hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and it's our 1-year anniversary on KPNL. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club, Oclophobia. Oclophobia is your password. Use it wisely, space travelers, as the clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on tonight talking about experiencers, what it's like to have extraordinary contact. Our guest tonight is Jay King. He was recently featured in a great article on thedebrief.org about experiencers, and we're proud to have him tonight. He hasn't done a lot of interviews yet, kind of a rookie at this, but he's doing well. And Jay, you got a great site for experiencers called the Experiencer Group online, and you got a great team behind you. Maybe tell us about them.
Sure, yeah. For example, Kirsten Blackburn, who's on screen right now, is one of the co-founders of that site, along with Stuart Davis. I met Kirsten before the pandemic by a few months. Kirsten, originally, when I met her, she was Richard Dolan's primary assistant. Richard Dolan and his spouse, Tracy, Kirsten was doing work for the both of them. And we met at a New York City meetup pre-pandemic. We used to meet up in New York City, in Manhattan, at Midtown diners, these goofy little diners with the pie and the coffee and everything like that. And so the first time that I met Kirsten face to face, we got together in one of these ufology meetups based around Richard Dolan's member site, richarddolanmembers.com. And there was about 6 or 8 of us, and Kirsten actually asked the question, what got you into ufology? We're going to go around the table. It's like Thanksgiving. We're all going to say what we're thankful for, but it's about like, how did we get into ufology, right? And I was the last to go. And I was vibrating. My hands were shaking under the table. My feet were shaking under the table. And I was thinking to myself, am I going to say the truth? Am I going to say that I'm an experiencer? And that's, of course, why I got into this. I want to research why this stuff has been happening to me. Why does this happen in general? And so it eventually got around to me, and I just blurted out in some kind of anxiety-fueled experiment. I just kind of blurted it out. And I was thinking to myself, I'm 40 years old, and it doesn't feel very healthy to keep all this inside. It actually really feels like it makes people sick to keep secrets like that inside. So I was thinking this, and I just blurted it out. And if anybody's going to understand me, it's going to be these people, including Kirsten. And she did. And the whole table did. And at the very least, they were really sweet about it. And so that was the first time that I met Kirsten, and it really bonded us together. And as the pandemic curtain kind of descended several months later, she grabbed me. Richard needed more help with the site and things like that. And so I started working with her on what Richard Dolan needed with his site and with his research and things like this. And I proposed with her, with Kirsten, doing these experiencer groups, doing private support groups via Zoom, where people could meet up and talk about these situations, because it seemed like there was this crazy sandwich happening, where on the one side, from outside, there were a lot of experiencers involved in ufology, kind of behind the scenes, being really quiet. They were being pushed down, as everybody had been, with this lockdown, work from home kind of scenario. And then from the other side, having to be quiet about these wild things that had happened to them, right? And this kind of situation was happening to everybody. Like, at that point, everybody was being pushed at all ends. But we started doing these meetup groups, and there was just this really unique energy that happened over the course of last year. And they grew and they grew and they grew, and more people were getting involved and hearing about them behind the scenes. And so we had these private groups happening, and it felt like, oh my gosh, we needed to have a group happening every day, because of how many experiencers were kind of coming out of the woodwork privately behind the scenes to join this conversation. Maybe partially because we were all making lemonade out of lemons, you know? We were all stuck at home. We were doing what we could. But that was the very beginning of what became the Experiencer Group. And I'm so happy that it exists. It's a really unique, wonderful community. I'm really humbled to be such a part of it. But it's really everybody that's there. If it wasn't for the unique, thoughtful, smart, really brilliant and kind people that exist in that community, it wouldn't have the reputation that it already does.
With everybody who's an experiencer, everybody's experiencer is different. Very rarely will you have two people who have the same experience happen to them. They may be similar in many ways, but this phenomena, whatever it is, really seems to individualize the experience per person. Have you noticed that in your group as well?
Yeah, I mean, there have been almost 1,000 people that have come through the Experiencer group at this point. And we only even went into a private invite-only beta stage in February. So this is a really new thing, right? But even just in that 1,000 people, there have been a lot of patterns that you see, situations that develop. And at the same time, there's a uniqueness. There's a situation where it feels like, in some ways, maybe, that some of these entities find a pattern of mutual enactment, as somebody like Sean Esbjorn Hargens would say. There's an area where that kind of telepathy, that kind of bond, these kind of interactions, where they meet you in your uniqueness. And a lot of people can't wrap their head around it, but it seems to be not only about the phenomenon, but about communication. And a lot of us think that that's really interesting and beautiful, and sometimes traumatic.
The fact that some people out there have just the most beautiful experiences with these entities, and I'm sticking with extraterrestrials here for a moment,
Sure.
and yet others have these absolutely horror film type nightmare scenarios happen. How do you define the two where some people will say, look, I believe the aliens are of peace, love, and light, and they're really guiding us to the future. I've got beautiful downloads of energy and spirit and all sorts of interesting phenomena happening around my house on a daily basis. Then you get the other guy who says, I've had needles in my eyes, I've had things stuck up my rectum, I've had, surgeries since I was a kid, I'm tired of this, I can't sleep, I can't hold down a job, this is affecting everything that I do, and I'm suicidal, but I don't want to do that road, but I just can't handle this anymore. I mean, those are two way different causes of experience here. So how do you define the two with the people who are having something positive happen and those who are having something very negative happen?
Well, I think that you're absolutely right. There's a broad range of experience that people encounter. And one of the unique challenges and something that really opens your mind is looking at it all and taking it all seriously. There's a pattern with some people where they want to run towards the trauma, or they want to run towards the stuff that is all good. And I think that it's important to recognize that maybe there's room for all of that in the universe or the multiverse or whatever kind of verse we're dealing with, right? I live in a condo building, okay? There's 100 units in my building. There's 10 on this floor, right? And I would sound ridiculous if I were to say that any one unit in here was completely populated by all good or all bad people, that they were evil or that they were brilliant, beautiful saints or something like that. I would sound like maybe a simple-minded person. If I were to characterize people like that. Well, maybe, just maybe, they're within this realm or within these many realms, there is a similarly broad range of personalities, motivations, and types of beings that have their own lives. They have their own interiority. They have their own goals. And maybe some of them seem terrible but aren't. Maybe some of them seem terrible and are. Maybe some of them are great, and maybe, like a lot of us, maybe some of those beings have a lot of complex personality traits that add up in a way that's not easily navigable by somebody else.
No, and I understand that, and I can appreciate that, but I think there's a real thick line drawn right in the middle between those who are having some of the most heinous times of their lives being a science experiment and those who are all, Dr. Stephen Greer, all, hoochie coo with the and buddy buddy with their alien friends and beings and counterparts. So I mean, how about let's look at yourself here for a second. Have you yourself run the gamut with the good and bad? How has it been drawn out for you?
I certainly have. I've had a lot of classic abduction experience that felt very unwelcome for many, many years. And I completely allow for that. And I want to say that out front. There have been many situations and over many years where I was absolutely, completely terrified by what was happening, where I didn't sleep with the lights on, or I didn't sleep with the lights off for my 20s, a lot of my 30s. I would stay up until dawn or as close to it as I could because of things that had happened to me, right? So I understand, and I deeply, deeply find myself in comportment with people that only find trauma and negative situations here. But I have had other experiences as well. And I do recognize, for myself anyway, that as I've gotten older, that I have less traumatic experience and I have more positive experience. And I don't know whether that's through my own personal development. I don't know whether that's happenstance or chance or luck. I don't know why that is, but it allows me the unique position that other people are afforded as well, where I can understand, quote unquote, both sides, or I can understand a breadth that happens here. And I think that one of the things that we try to do within the experiencer group, and that I've tried to do within my own personal growth, is to try to move through and process that trauma and try to use it to get to a better place with my understanding of how I could treat other people, or how other people treat me, how I view the world. And I think that a lot of other people can do that as well. And in that way, it doesn't mean that it's all hugs and high fives and cosmic high fives, but there is room to grow even in the worst situations, without discounting the deep trauma and fear that happens in situations that don't feel like they involve any free will or agency.
Do you think then that the extraterrestrials, whether they are doing scientific experiments on us or whether they're trying to enlighten us, do you believe that they know what they are actually doing with us? Because in reality, they are treating wild animals and insects and mammals much the way we do, or pardon me, they're treating us much the way we would to do scientific study on mammals, animals, or any type of fish or any other sort of breathing object on this planet.
That's true, and I think that there are a lot of people that wonder whether these other beings feel the need to adapt to similar rules or characteristics of what we're doing. And if that's the case, then they're absolutely abiding by our own rules, because look at how we treat even our own pets, right? Or how do we treat our environment? How do we treat other animals? Things like that. And it's often not great. Some of us treat all these animals super well, and some of us don't, right? So I think that there's a level of subjectivity, and that there's a level of translation that's happening, and I try to keep an open mind. I try to keep an open mind because in some ways, because of the experience that I've had, I recognize the deep ontological difference, the very, very different way, even just having a hint of the very, very different way that these beings live, the very different way that these beings communicate or exist, and recognizing that they might just be trying to hit us on our level and trying to keep an open mind about what that means. And recognizing that I've had trauma from some of those beings, and I've also had trauma from regular life as well. So in that way, sometimes maybe the beings aren't so different.
What hurts more, though? The human life or the fact that the experience you have zero control over? Because here's the thing, in human life, you have somewhat control of what is going on.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes as an experiencer, as I'm sure you're aware, it feels like a crap sandwich, right? It feels like on both sides you're just getting hit by a bunch of crud, and that whether you're dealing with day-to-day life or whether you're dealing with what happens at 4 a.m, it feels like you're dealing with a bunch of crud, and I would use harsher language if I wasn't on the radio. Right. But
we got 3 minutes to go here before we got to go to break. At the bottom of the hour, Jay King is our guest tonight. Jay, quickly, do you have a story or an encounter that you could tell that has been quite positive to you?
Yeah. Okay. I had a situation, and it was actually the beginning of it was written about in Richard Dolan's book, The Alien Agendas, which was published late last year. I was an anonymous source in this book, mainly in the kind of gray and manted sections of this book. And if you have any doubt about that, you can talk to Richard, or you could look at the very first paragraph where I'm saying. And the one situation that happened in early 2017, I think I've got about 2 minutes left. So I woke up in the middle of the night. My partner was next to me. She was asleep. And I woke up, and this strangely lighted portal opened up on or right in front of the wall in front of me. All right. And this maybe 8-foot manted being came out of this portal, really hunched over at first. They often kind of have this hunched posture. It walked out, and the first thing that I asked was, "Are you physically here?" And it reached over with its super long mantis fingers, and its answer was to grab the door adjacent to it by the top, over the top of the door, and move it open more. As it looked at me with intense eye contact and kind of cocked its head. And then after that, though, it asked me, "What questions do you have?" I was about, at that stage, I think 2017, I guess I was 39 years old. And I'd had a lot of traumatic and hard to encapsulate encounters, but in that situation, that very strange situation, and that I think has brought me in some ways to where I am right now, talking to you, talking to Ralph and things like that. It actually, this being came out and said, "What do you want to hear?" And I had some questions ready for it. And I don't remember the full conversation. I had the typical curtains out situation at a certain point, but it was a very pivotal experience in my life. I'll put it that way.
Right on. And when we come back from the break, we're going to learn more about the experiencers. What's their role in ufology today? This is a big question since, really, it's been a couple of years that the experiencers have been heard by the UFO community. We'll find out more with our guest, Jay King, tonight from the Experiencer Group online. Spaced Out Radio continues right after this. All right, we're clear.
All right. Really great. How's it going for you?
I'm having a great time tonight, man. Thank you.
Excellent.
I really am.
I'm glad to hear it. It's my first time. If you have any pointers for me that you don't mind the rest of the world hearing on YouTube, I'm up for that.
Keep your head close to your microphone.
Oh, okay. Okay, I'm wandering a little bit.
No, but when you bend over for a book, your audio goes with it.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's the only gripe I have so far, my friend, and that one's curable.
Okay. Anything else? Anything at all?
Oh, maybe we'll hug later on. I don't know. We'll
oh,
see.
Man.
Absolutely.
We can trade off being the big spoon if you want.
Yeah.
That's all right.
Whatever happens, happens. I mean. Hey, Mickle and a Pickle, good morning to you. How's Meaty Toes? And Steve Franchise, what's happening, man? Good to see you. Oumuamua, nice to have you back. Oh, yeah. We got a question here for you, man.
Sure.
This is going to determine the entire interview process tonight. What's your opinion on eating breakfast foods for dinner?
I'm all for it.
Yeah, you
I
dirty
think
bastard.
I don't mean to sound divisive. I don't mean to alienate anybody, but having a really good omelet for dinner can be transcendent.
Just blew this
it can
whole
make the
bloody
difference
interview.
It can make the difference of not just that whole night, but the whole next day. That's my opinion.
You're a scoundrel. You're a scoundrel for saying breakfast foods are for breakfast, man. Breakfast food, yeah, look, right there, buddy, right there.
Russell, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Don't
rotten.
I'm glad you.
You were such a good guy too, and now we gotta end the interview, all because.
Okay, I understand. I'm glad you didn't ask me about cereal because that can be really divisive.
Don't start with me, King. You're already pissing me off here with the breakfast. Son of a gun.
I apologize.
I thought we had a good one here. What's wrong with my booking team? What's wrong with my booking team? You guys know better.
Right? Yeah. Who let this guy in?
Exactly. Ufologist, how you doing? And who else has showed up? Ed Parnell. There we go. All
Great
right.
to see you, Julie.
Yes, the luscious Jules is here nightly.
Oh, she's a great one.
She's a sweetheart. Starlight, thank you so much for that super chat. Really do appreciate that.
Great to see you, Starlight, Michelle, Waterlily, Kaiju, Chad, Jean-Baptiste, Paradox Fossils, all of you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we got a good group going on tonight. Good group. Solid.
What about a champagne brunch for 3 o'clock snack? Says Flippity Gibbets. I mean, I think that sounds great. I don't know if you're talking about 3 o'clock in the morning or 3 o'clock p.m.
3 o'clock in the morning. That works.
I think given the right circumstances and given the right company, both of those are decent possibilities.
Oh. Grandpa Holland says, greetings from Australia.
Greetings to you. Mm-hmm. Wonderful to see you. Thank you for joining us.
Cosmic Fleur, great show.
Thanks, Cosmic Fleur.
Yeah, she's all right. This time I won't forget our break coming out here. Give me 1 sec here.
Sure.
Hold on. Oh. I've been staring at this thing on my shelf, and it looked like it was going to fall off. I had to push it back on.
Huh.
Yeah, some sick people in our chat room agreeing with breakfast for dinner. Dirty, dirty people. Bad.
I mean, I could see it both ways. I prefer to be open-minded about as much as I can.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. I know a group I'm quitting tomorrow. All right, one sec, Jake. One sec.
Understood.
Big thank you to Starlight, Surf Jer, Red Panda, Kirsten, and Spooky and Science Bob, Patrick, Alicia, Space Cow, and Nicola for the amazing super chats. It really helps what we do here on a nightly basis on Spaced Out Radio. Thank you so much. Thank you to all of our new subscribers. If you haven't yet, hit subscribe, ring that bell. We are here 7 days a week for your entertainment needs of all things woo and crazy. And, of course, thank you to all the veterans who are tuned on in. Here we go, everyone. Past the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. Really do appreciate earning your listening ears. Want to remind you that if you missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Check out our swag as well, and follow us on social media, on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, and on Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on with the experiencers here tonight from the Experiencer Group. Online, Jay King is with us. And Jay, we're just going to get right into it because, there's so much we need to talk about and there's so little time left as we only have you for another hour. It may seem like a lot, but it really isn't the way this show is going. I want to get into the fact that the last few years we have seen groups like the To the Stars Academy and other researchers out there really push the fact that we are not supposed to combine extraterrestrials with the UAP or UFOs people are seeing. And we're like, no, you can't be hasty. Just because we see an anomalous object in the sky that is apparently clearly not from here doesn't mean that there are aliens flying it. Where do you stand on this little bit of a controversy that kind of excludes the experiencer part of the UFO phenomena?
Well, thanks for asking. I think that there is an extraordinary chasm here where experiencers have been decentralized from these conversations for decades for no good reason. If it wasn't for the experiencers, this, according to me anyway, this whole field, ufology in general, the paranormal, it largely wouldn't exist because it only exists because people saw something and then they said something, right? That's the way that we hear about this stuff, whether it's Betty and Barney Hill or whether it's a decorated Navy pilot. We know about this whole field because we've either had the deep lived experience ourselves or we've heard about it from people that have. And so there has been for many decades a situation where it's been filtered. It's a game of telephone where you hear about it through researchers, or especially you hear about it from government sources, right? And there's of course an internal conflict that's happening because a lot of people recognize through things like Donald Kehoe's research or Leonard Stringfield's research or APRO, the Lorenzens, right? There's a long, long history of people that are pointing to the fact that people like J. Allen Hynek with Project Blue Book and others originally weren't coming at things from the best of intentions, right? That there's a situation that developed for a long time where government sources were trying to manage this stuff. And even to this day, there's this strange hangover that exists where people are led by like a laser pointer. It's as if people in ufology are a cat and they're being led by a laser pointer right back to the E-ring or wherever of the Pentagon. And I'm not here to disagree or agree with government sources in general. I'm here to side with the experiencers who are the real heroes of this situation. And this, one of the things here is that only the experiencers and the people that listen to them know how strange, know how weird all of this stuff gets, right? And if you ever even conceptualize, what does a gray look like, right? What do any of these beings look like? Like, what is the situation of medical experiments? What is Whitley Strieber talking about? What were Betty and Barney Hill talking about? You didn't hear that from the government. You heard that from experiencers.
Okay, so before I get to an audience question here, should we be trusting the government? Because when I got into this field almost 7 years ago, I was told, and every documentary I saw leading up to it was, don't trust the government on this one. They've done some shady stuff. They're holding the secrets. They're the ones who aren't telling us the information. Hold them accountable. And yet, all of a sudden, we're supposed to trust, and these are people I like. Okay, we're supposed to trust Lou Elizondo. We're supposed to trust Robert Bigelow. We're supposed to trust Harry Reid. We're supposed to trust David Fravor. We're supposed to trust Chris Mellon and Mark Werner and Marco Rubio and anybody else politically affiliated or alphabet agency affiliated, that they're giving us the goods on what is best for us in ufology. To me, I see that as a complete cover-up of the true narrative. How about yourself?
I think that there's a lot of gray area there, in that there are some people that I've met in the short time that I've really been doing some deep work with this in the experiencer group, and before that with Richard Dolan's site and things like that, that there are some people that are deeply embedded in situations like this that have good intentions, and maybe they had an experience, maybe they're just privy to things, and they try to work within the framework that they've got. And so on some level, I feel for them. I don't think that I don't feel that our government is a monolith that is completely unified. I think that there are a lot of people that work within it that are deeply conflicted or trying to do the best that they can within that framework. And that said, there's been obviously a lot of deception as well from a lot of corners. And so one thing that I do see in recent years is that there is a slow moving molasses-like drip towards what, like a stranger, wider form of reality, right? And we can get there. I think what it comes down to is that a lot of people get really angry because they are only looking towards this source. They want, quote unquote, capital D disclosure, right? When they haven't even established what that means, right?
Very true.
That's always been a vague term. What is disclosure? Are we talking about Roswell? Are we talking about free energy? Are we talking about Zeta Reticulans? Are we talking about reptilian? There are so many different people that have so many different beliefs and so many different sources for what this quote unquote big D disclosure would be. And so when it comes down to that, it's like, okay, if you don't believe in the government in general, then why are you so hell-bent on trying to get them to tell you anything? Go somewhere else. Like, don't be so frustrated. Look at the books. Look at the research. Go somewhere. Don't listen to these people.
I can appreciate
if you don't want to, right?
Jay, I can totally appreciate that. But when you see people who, for years, have been telling you to stay away or hold the government accountable for this, hold them accountable for the information, hold them accountable for what they haven't told us, from Roswell to the Phoenix Lights. This is Nimitz incident that we knew about. And I'm talking people such as your good friend Richard Dolan. I'm talking people like Linda Moulton Howe, people who have been on the circuit forever and making money off of this circuit through documentaries, books, cameos, whatever it may be. And now they're spewing the idea that, well, we should listen to Lou Elizondo. We should listen to Chris Mellon. These are important people we need to be talking about. To me, look, we all grow up. We all find information. I can understand that their information has become expansive, and I'm not trying to make this a shot at Mr. Elizondo or Mr. Mellon or whomever, okay? Because I respect the fact that they are both trying in their own way. But it doesn't take away from the idea, though, that these people have told us for years, be careful of the government, be careful of the alphabet agencies, be careful of it all. And now they're siding with these same people because that's the way the younger generation of ufologists has decided to follow.
Well, I mean, I don't want to put words into Richard's mouth, but I think, and I don't know Linda personally, though I love a lot of her work. I think that Glimpses of Other Realities, her series in the 90s, was one of the most ahead of its time pieces of research in the history of ufology overall. I'm only sad that it's not more available to people than it is right now, because back in 1995, Linda Moulton Howe was arguably at the forefront of this whole dang thing. But Richard, there are situations where people, they just want to see toothpaste coming out of the tube.
True.
They want to hear what the line is, the government line. They want to hear that, and they want to work with that. And there's a coaxing that happens. And so there are a lot of people that don't necessarily believe these narratives or don't necessarily think that that's it, but they're happy to hear the toothpaste come out of the tube.
True.
And they want to work with that. And so there are people that I've known within this field that definitely are in that boat. And so they're happy to listen to whatever the Mellons or Elizondos are slip on a banana peel and disclose or something like that, right?
Well, and like I said, I'm not trying to give a shot at Elizondo or Mellon, but I do think there is a very big controlled narrative going on here at this time. The experiencers, as we know, have been pushed out of the way for the time being, and I understand why from the people who I have talked to. It's because the majority of people do not understand how real this phenomena is. The majority of people outside of ufology. That would be the mainstream public, if we call them that. All right, so I totally get that, and I can appreciate it, but you just can't have it one way or the other. And the idea that, man, there is this entire narrative going on that people aren't even asking questions about. I just hope that one day those questions come out, whether it's about what happened to you, Jay, or what's happened to me, because I'll be honest with you, I'm selfish. This entire show is selfish because it comes down to one question. Why me?
Right. Yeah. Why any of us as experiencers? And why not other people? And I don't have any answers for that, and I'm sure that you probably feel similarly, where
true.
It's just for most, within the experiencer group, I found this to be true, that most people that have this deeply lived experience, unlike some of the people that have become famous in public for proclaiming themselves as experiencers, that may have greasy hair and have appeared on Gaia opposite, David Wilcock or whatever.
Oh,
who
could that be?
Like,
who could that be?
Right? There's a lot of other people that have this deeply lived experience, and most of those people, they don't have answers. They just have bigger questions, like you and me.
All right, let's get to Bio's question here. Do you think aliens have anything to do with our advancements in technology in the last 40 years? If so, do you think there are our human minds could keep up?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question, Bio. I do think that is probable. I think it's possible. I've done a lot of the research and reading, as I'm sure you have, that, the idea of these crash retrievals, things like that. And it's not unlikely that places like our national labs may have some of this, have worked with some of this stuff or speculated from what they've seen. Even if, say, if you don't want to do the thought experiment or don't want to do the possible reality of crash retrievals or things like that, there's also the idea of what do the experiencers see? What's been reported in terms of things that our technology doesn't have? Even in terms of light, people will get on board these craft and there'll be ambient light that doesn't have any source. Right? Even just that is kind of an actionable piece of data that people can try to logically work back from and deconstruct. And I think that it's highly likely, if not completely probable, that has happened in certain situations, for sure.
I want to ask you, and this is recent controversy, and we might as well get it out since we're kind of going down this road. Demi Lovato has recently come out as an experiencer, which I think is phenomenal. It opens up the door to 115 million followers that she has in a very important conversation about the phenomena and, as we are learning, her personal experiences. But she kind of, in my opinion, threw a little bit of a wrench in things recently, where, without even asking the aliens, saying that we should not be using the term alien anymore to describe aliens because it's derogatory to aliens. I'm curious your thoughts on that.
Sure. I think that's a great question. I think one thing here that often goes unappreciated is that, here we are about 4 years after that front page New York Times story, the ATIP story. And before that, a lot of the media narrative in ufology was pitched directly to our doorstep. It was for people like you and me, right? And now we're seeing stuff from like TMZ. We're seeing stuff from Demi Lovato. We're seeing material about ufology and these big mysteries that are pitched at people like our younger sisters. They're pitched at our nieces and nephews. They have different demographics than we do. In a lot of ways, that's awesome. The world would probably be better if we had bizarre reality-shifting media thrown at every demographic that exists, honestly. And I think I understand something Demi Lovato's maybe trying to get at, and that's the idea that maybe on some level, we're not always on opposite ends from other advanced beings, what may be extraterrestrials. I totally understand and empathize with the idea that even just as a thought experiment, it'd be good to find ways that we can relate and find commonality with beings that don't look or quite act like us, like humans, right? And at the same time, I understand that there are these big fundamental shifts happening. There are a lot of people like myself when I was younger, people like you, maybe in certain situations, people I meet each week on the experiencer group that have had really difficult and traumatic situations happen. It's an inconvenient truth, right? want there to have been situations where I was taken out of my bed against my will in the middle of the night, but that's exactly what happened. Would I have preferred a 100% 24/7 hands across America feel-good moment that lasted forever? Absolutely. So I get when people like Demi Lovato or others like Demi Lovato are out there having these semantic debates. But there are these even deeper and more immediate issues out there. Like, why are they taking people in the middle of the night? Why do I have to be worried about offending them when they're abducting me against my will? Right? And then there's also another level where, from the work that I've done with the Experiencer group, seeing almost 1,000 people come through at this point already, to know that some people encounter great, encouraging, helpful, positive beings. Some people encounter other beings and have a great time. There have been times when I myself have had my mind completely blown in an amazing and pretty positive way. So there's an issue to keep in mind here, keeping an open mind, realizing the universe or the multiverse is vast, realizing there are probably a lot of beings, and they probably have at least as much variety as we do in personalities, and trying to get from that point. So I can see it. I can see it from not just both of those sides, but maybe more. I get where Demi Lovato may be coming from, and I also get that there are deeper, more fundamental shifts happening that don't have to deal with these kind of semantic language debates. Does that make sense?
And I think that's a very good way to put it all. My thing is this. Everything changes. Language changes. It's formulated throughout centuries. We have new words coming out all the time. We have new definitions, new meanings. It's ever evolving, which I think is fantastic and proactive. That being said, I also look at what I look at from a UFO perspective and from an experiencer perspective. I wonder if making an issue out of the word calling aliens is something we need to be worried about, like you said, because when the mainstream public now looks at this, and I've seen some of the heinous comments that have been put on Facebook and other social media sites regarding her comments about don't call aliens, it's derogatory. But last I checked, Auk and Jock Zeta Reticuli have not come down here to tell me what I'm supposed to call them. And I look at it from a bigger perspective as well, thinking that there's a lot of people who we are trying to get on the bandwagon and say, look, experiencers are real, UFOs are real, there's something happening here, and in the meantime, we're worried about semantics of a word that we've always recognized aliens as aliens. And we shouldn't be focused on that. We should be focused on the experiencer. We should be focused on what the government is worried about. Now, what everybody who's on the ledge is going to be focused on is making fun of Ms. Lovato and her words about banning the word alien.
I totally understand and sympathize with what you're saying here. And I agree that with both you and Demi, that one of the things that we need to get over within ufology is these problems of terms, whether it's aliens, whether it's dimensions, whether it's realms, whatever it is. There are a lot of situations where we become encumbered, where we become log jammed within our conversations because we don't do the very, very basic kind of college level situation of agreeing with what a term is. Like what's a cup and what's a glass? What's a log cabin? What's the definition of is? These kinds of things. Like they actually mean something. There's something there. Like science only happens because there's study and then there's an agreement of what those terms are. And so in that way, maybe there's a bigger question of saying, as people that are involved in the paranormal and ufology, can we like look at these terms and agree to some stuff so that we can get past that and get to some deeper truths here?
I agree with you. And that's a good way to put it and end this segment. Jay King from the Experiencer Group Online. When we come back, we'll continue the experience talk. We'll take some of your questions if you're in one of our chat rooms or on Twitter. All about the experience with Jay King, the Experiencer Speak. Hour 3 of Spaced Out Radio continues right after this. We're good.
I felt like that was going to a really good place.
You know,
I love this conversation, man. It's great.
I love the other side of it, though. And my good teammate, John Hudson, here in SOR, he opened my eyes out because being Canadian, okay, look, there's racism here. Of course there is. But there's always... most of us just shovel it away, okay? That's not what we do as good Canadian kids. You know, we're a multicultural society here, and a lot of families that I know, and including my own, are multicultural, and that's kind of the way it is. And I understand. John opened my eyes to something yesterday when we were talking, and that was, look, where he grew up in California, the term alien is offensive because of illegal aliens and because of undocumented aliens. And I get that, and I empathize with that, and I could see where that would piss a lot of people off, and maybe we shouldn't call aliens aliens. But, and I'm not trying to justify here, but when I say the word alien, I don't think of people. Okay, I think of big black eyes, a giant gray head, or a mantid being, or whatever it may be. I don't think of people as that. Okay, and look, I understand there's a lot of tension on both sides of the border. You know, I mean, we get that, and I'm not trying to politicize this or anything, but John really opened my eyes to that, and that was something I hadn't thought of in regards to it. But I mean, it does make sense that if you grow up in one of those border towns and you're about people, that you and you don't care where they're from, you're just about loving people, which is a good thing, man. We need more of that. I get where it would be offensive, but I don't even think of that, though. You know, I mean, that's the problem. I just can't turn my brain on to what she's saying.
I totally get that, and I think at the same time, along with what you and it sounds like John are saying, it's like, you know, the idea of the much mythologized Nordics, right? These other non-human humans, right? Are they aliens? If they look a lot like us, if they're hotter than us, if they're blonder than us, are they still aliens? Or are they?
The only thing
you know what I mean? Like
the only thing I know about them is I have zero chance. Look at this. Look at this. I have zero chance for a Nordic.
I feel the same way, man. I feel the same way. Do we have 3 minutes? What do we got?
Yeah,
here?
we got about 3 minutes here.
Okay, I'm gonna run. I'll be back in 90 seconds. Okay?
Yeah.
Is that all right?
Yeah, go right ahead. Jason Pearl, how you doing? Welcome to the show. Magnus Vermagnuson, good to have you back, buddy. What do you mean, Eric, with a K that I like stirring it up? It's called news, man. News. The gorgeous McClurg has returned. Kira's a Nordic. Good night, Surf Chair. Nice to see you again, buddy. Eric with a K, are you dropping me back to your fourth favorite show? I just got up to number 3, man. I just got up to number 3. Apparently Ivy Gold is a Nordic too. Hi, gorgeous Marie. I want to say a big thank you to Starlight, Surf Jer, Red Panda, Kristen, Spooky, Science Bob, Patrick, Alicia, Space Cow, Nicola for the amazing super chats tonight. Really do appreciate the love and support that you guys have for us. Mandingo, how you doing? Good to see you. And want to just say a big thank you to all the veterans who are tuning us in, checking us out, and hanging on out. You always have a safe home here at Spaced Out Radio. And a big thank you to all of our regulars out here who were having a good time. You know, we appreciate it. There's the gorgeous D. Ocean Swagger. There she is. The stunning L. Pepper has returned. She's got her horns up. Be careful, everybody. You know what the sad part about it is? There's probably going to be somebody who turns our comments about that into just absolute flavorless filth.
I hear you, though. You're just trying to appreciate people on their level, and you give them the wonderful adjectives and adverbs that they deserve. That's what I hear, anyway. But you know, I'm a newbie.
Hold on, buddy.
I don't know.
Hold on.
Yep.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio is underway tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Really appreciate you listening or tuning us in and checking us out, whether it's your first time or, you know, one of many. We appreciate it. Earning your listening ears. Want to say hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America and digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and our 1-year anniversary tonight on KPNL Digital Radio. All of our archives are free by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club, Oclophobia. Oclophobia is your password. Use it wisely, space travelers, as the clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on tonight with Jay King. He's part of the Experiencer Group.com, and he is one of the featured experiencers in Ralph Blumenthal's latest article on the experiencers of the UAP phenomena, especially deriving around extraterrestrials. We're glad to have him here. We got up till the bottom of the hour. Jay, welcome back.
Thank you so much again for having me, Dave. It's a real pleasure to be here.
For all of us out there who are not experiencers, who've never seen a UFO, who've never, ever, in their wildest dreams outside of television or CGI or YouTube, have seen an extraterrestrial, what is it like to have that close face-to-face contact with one of these beings?
Well, as you may know, it's more strange than you could possibly imagine. And that is not necessarily because of the actual physical characteristics of these other beings. It's largely because of the, for lack of a better term, the telepathic mind meld that happens with the majority of the beings that I've come into contact with, and it sounds like you as well. Whether we're talking about greys, whether we're talking about mantids, There are even discarnate entities for some experiencers. There is a unifying level of consciousness that kind of dips you out of your body. It dips you out of your day-to-day consciousness with time, space. And that is often the most difficult thing to contend with. That when you're face to face with a being like this, it's not just that they look so strange, that they're so different from the way that we look, but that there's often this telepathic union that happens very quickly, and that it's disarming. It forces you into a situation where you're contending with not just how they look, but how they think and how they communicate. And it's a very, very slippery situation. I'll put it that way.
Do you want your contact to continue? Like, if it ended tomorrow, would you be okay with that?
I would be okay with it, but at the same time, I feel like as I've gotten older, I have both my eyes, I have all my fingers and toes. If I could go back in time to me 20 years ago, I would tell myself that you will still be sane when you're 42 years old. You'll still have a life when you're 42 years old. You'll be all right, you know? And so in that way, I wouldn't necessarily turn it off tomorrow. Even when it's been at its worst, it's given me insight into how deeply strange and wider the constraints really are in this strange living sphere that we're on, right? And so there's been years of trauma. There's been times where I didn't think that I was going to keep my sanity, all of that. And at the same time, I wouldn't necessarily turn it off tomorrow. If somebody gave me a switch, I wouldn't flip it. If it did turn off tomorrow and never happened again, I would still be ruminating on these things that had happened to me through the first 42 years of my life.
Right. For a lot of people out there, they would love to turn off the phenomena. Have you ever studied people who have been successful in getting their ET contact to stop?
Well, I tried to get my own contact to stop many, many times. I tried to get it to stop when I was in my early 20s. I tried to get it to stop in my later 20s. I tried to get it to stop in my early 30s. It didn't work, you know, and I know people that have had reasonable success in mediating at least seemingly some period of neutrality or détente, where there would be a period of you go your way and I'll go mine. Stuart Davis, who's a co-founder of the Experiencer Group, has a really strong advocacy point where he says that, you know, a lot of experiencers feel that they've somehow signed some contract or have made some agreement, maybe even before they were born, for this stuff to happen. And he strongly advocates for the idea that if you don't want that contract to exist, you should meditate on the idea of breaking that contract and saying it's null and void. You don't want to have it anymore. And there have been people that have tried that route and have seemingly had some success with regard to stopping contact. I haven't done that, but I do understand that for some people that would be a good and maybe even necessary thing to try.
Do you know when your contact is going to happen?
I don't know for sure, but there are enough telltale signs that I have a reasonable degree of confidence Sometimes there's a hum that comes in. Sometimes there's a light that appears. There are situations where if an abduction or kind of getting pulled out of your bed situation happens, where in the winter months I've sensed the cold air rushing in from the outside as if like a whole section of the wall has disappeared all of a sudden. There are a lot of telltale signs. The feeling of being watched. A lot of people comment on that, and it seems like a vague or ambiguous situation, but it does exist. So there are a lot of small signals, and they can really add up to something big for sure.
For a lot of people, they seem to have these telltale signs. Like, for instance, when I was being contacted a long time ago, doesn't happen much anymore, I used to hear Pink Floyd's "Is There Anybody Out There?" My friend Samantha Mowat, doesn't matter whether it's 30 below outside or 30 above, she will, and that's Celsius, not Fahrenheit, she will see blue butterflies. That's how she knows. You say you got a hum. Do you think that they put these little recognition pieces in our head to prepare us or our bodies for what is coming that night or within days?
I think that that's a very likely possibility. I don't know for sure, but I've seen enough cases. I've compared notes with people like Mike Clelland, for example, the author of The Messengers and other books, who has examined the connection between these situations that seem like screen memories, like with owls or deer and things like that, and how they seem in retrospect to reveal deeper situations that are much weirder than having a 4-foot white owl show up in your bedroom or something like that, right? And so I've listened to a lot of accounts like that, and I think that there's something there where there are a lot of situations where it seems like some of these beings are trying to ring the doorbell in a way that is uniquely understood by the individual, where on some level we feel like we're not being contacted, and on another situation, on another level, we are being contacted in a way that could only be with us. And there's an element of translation that sometimes has to happen. And it doesn't necessarily mean that there's the best of intentions out there, but it has to do with a level of communication. And it does seem to be there for sure. I agree with you.
A couple of questions coming from our audience here in our YouTube chat room. Nicola is asking, do you think some people get addicted to contact and want it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've seen that myself. I've seen that around me. If there are people that have had these situations, and sometimes they feel that these anomalous situations mean that they're on the right track with life. And if they don't happen for a while, some people feel that it means that they're somehow adrift or something like that. And I don't necessarily agree with that. I think that it's a blessing to have periods where you can get grounded and put your feet on the floor and get a decent night of sleep, you know? And I also understand how these deeply strange scenarios could get to a point with some people where they would want it, just as people want to go back to non-ordinary states like ayahuasca or LSD or even marijuana or something like that. It's like a natural high in a very, very different way. So I understand it. I empathize with that, but that's not me myself anyway.
All right. Kaiju wants to know, what do you think or feel that they have chosen you for contact?
You know, I appreciate that question, Kaiju. I have no idea. I don't know. I know that there are it doesn't exist. It seems like there are clusters of data where it exists in family groups, and without going into detail or breaking family understandings, there are other people in my family that have had situations not unlike mine. And so it does seem that there's a situation of lineage that is there. But so I don't think that it's just me. I think that it becomes a wider situation of family situations. And one thing that I will say is that there is a strange data point where people that have family lines where an ancestor has been involved in the space program or confidential weapons programs and other similar situations where it seems like there's a stronger than chance likelihood that some of those people might become of interest to other entities for some reason. And so I've seen that in private groups where, like, if there's one common denominator among grays and things like that, it might be something like that.
Have you ever been contacted by Men in Black or had your experiences lead down the road of My Labs or MK Ultra?
It's hard to say. Like, a lot of my situations have been really fragmentary, but without going into extreme detail for the purposes of not weirding people out too much, there is something to there's something very, very serious and notable about the idea that some of these beings are interested in our reproductive systems and our biology, and they're, what Dave and I were talking about before in terms of aliens versus non-human entities and these kinds of semantic debates, they become a little bit trickier when you think about the idea that there could be humans that don't really exist within our day-to-day communal framework, our day-to-day reality, that there could be another form of humanoid being or intelligence.
We've got about 6.5 minutes left with you tonight. I want to say a big thank you for a great show so far. We're going to continue on with some audience questions. Elle is asking, Do you think tech CEOs go to Burning Man to secretly make contact with aliens every year? That is a great question. A fantastic question.
I mean, they're probably there for a different form of contact than alien contact from what I've seen of Burning Man situations, but I don't really know. It's a very some people find that a deeply sexy situation, things like Burning Man.
You know what?
That's not me. I don't want to be in the desert for 8 days without a way to shower myself, but that's just me.
Neither do I, but you know what? We may have to go to find the ETs. We may have to go. And I think,
well, yeah.
Hey, it's science. It's science. Going to Burning Man to find aliens is pure science. We can write this off.
I mean, one thing that Elle's really trying to get at here, I think, is like, does Elon Musk know more than what he says? And I think the answer is almost certainly yes.
One of the big debates leads to Flippity's question here, and that is, where do you think they are coming from? If you listen to Elizondo, if you listen to Mellon, if you listen to some of the other brain trust on this subject, they allegedly have no clue. They're not sure if it's from the future, if it's from another dimension, or if it's from space. Where do you think they're coming from?
I don't have a concrete answer about that. However, I do recognize that from my experience and from the experience of others that I've been in contact with, other experiencers through the experiencer group, etc., that there does seem to be some interpenetrating level where often some of these beings seem to be able to blip in or portal in or be meeting us in some kind of halfway point and then able to somehow blip out as if we exist on a certain FM radio station and then they exist on another FM radio station. And so from my experience, I don't know where they come from, but I think that a lot of them probably natively, at least when they're around here, seem to somehow be able to reside in a level that is a little bit separate from ours, where it does seem that we're maybe on 97.9 and they're on 99.3, for example. And that gets back to what we were talking about before with Demi, where it's like this problem of terms. So is that a dimension? Is that a subtle realm? What is that? But there does seem to be some level of technology that exists where they can be right there, very nearby, and then distinctly offset of our physical reality and able to interpenetrate in. And John Mack talked about that. The Dalai Lama talks about that. There are a lot of people that talk about these kinds of subtle realms. So yeah, there's a lot of debate, but I would point towards that anyway.
Deep down, how do you really feel? Be honest with us. Space, come on, give us a goods.
I mean, I think that there's probably, I mean, space is vast, right? So I think that there's probably some beings that are definitely coming, probably from some other planet in our conventional understanding of space, and then maybe when they get here, they have such a technological advantage that they're able to maybe phase into some, higher vibration or some other level to be invisible to us or something like that in a way that we can't understand. And it sounds like magic, but that's always been the quote, right? Where it says, that any technology that is sufficiently advanced will appear as magic, right? Well, that's where we are, and we need to get to this level where we can actually talk about terms so that we can stop sounding so there's a lot of stuff within quote unquote woo that actually would be nuts and bolts if we maybe just thought 50, 60, 100 years ahead of where we are right now.
Very true.
Yeah.
Very true. I'm going to have to skip the final question for you tonight and get right to it because we only have about 90 seconds left. And, Jay, sure. I want to say this has been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show tonight. I hope you had a lot of fun, and I hope we really did you justice with a lot of interesting questions regarding the phenomena. And thank you so much for coming on Spaced Out Radio tonight. What a pleasure to meet you.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here. I'd come back anytime. And there are so many more questions and thoughts to ponder with you, Dave. I really like speaking with you, and your audience is great. It's great to be here.
Thank you. Do me a favor in 60 seconds. Tell everybody where they can find the Experiencer Group.
Sure. On our website is www.theexperiencergroup.com. You can find us on Twitter at For Experiencers, FOR Experiencers. You can find me on Twitter at JCKing78, I think it is. And if not there, just go into Google and put in the Experiencer Group. You'll find us. We also have a YouTube channel where we've been posting our roundtable discussions, like with Ralph Blumenthal and Mike Cleland and the Experiencer, and recently the Experiencers, all of the Experiencers from Ralph's article. So get in touch with us if you'd like. Join. You can always get a free month trial with our group, and it's And if you continue on, it'd be great. Dave, it's great to be here, and it's great to have a space for experiencers to be able to share and learn and grow together.
Much love, my friend. Jay King from the Experiencer Group. Coming up next, I'm warming up the Magic 8 Ball. We're going to get psychic on everybody here. Get your questions ready if you're in our YouTube chat. We'll get to it right after this on Spaced Out Radio. That was a fantastic show, man. Fantastic show. Thank you.
I got a little flustered at the end, but I'm really glad to be here. I'm really glad to be here with you, and I'm really glad to be here with the audience. I love this show, and I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, well, definitely, man. Let's definitely stay in touch, because I think you have a lot to offer. And every now and again, I like to bring in some media panels in regards to experiencers and everything like that. Love for you to attend that, and it's just an absolute honor having you here with us and getting your side of everything. I mean, that was good information tonight. It really was.
Oh, thanks. And as is always the case, there's so much more that didn't go explored tonight, and it just makes more room for conversations in the future.
Absolutely.
So I completely agree with you, and it's an honor to be here. Honestly,
I agree with you. Thank you so much. I will let you go. I got to warm up the 8 Ball, because if it's not heating up, it gets a little cranky. Stick around. I mean, I know you're in our chat room every now and again, but stick around. We'll shake it on up and see if we can find out whether it's aliens or not.
It's aliens.
All right, buddy.
That's wonderful. Have a great night, Dave.
Take care, Jay.
Hope to see you soon.
Bye-bye.
Have a good night. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye. Wonderful guest. That is a good guest. Knowledgeable. Speaks only of what he knows. He's not trying to overplay, not trying to over-answer, not trying to over-educate, just only speaking what he knows. I like that. I like that in a guest. It makes me feel comfortable. Makes me feel real comfortable and real good about a quality interview like that. That was good stuff. Very good stuff. I'm going to keep their website up here for a little bit if you guys want to join up. TheExperiencerGroup.com. Ooh, Lauren had a little bit of a crush. He was fun to look at, and I like that. She's never said that about me. But that's okay. He is a good-looking guy. Good-looking guy. Nice hair. Good teeth. Yeah, I agree, Paul. No BS. No BS. You're very welcome, Kirsten, and you're more than welcome to come hang out with us. We are here 7 days a week. Oh, excuse me. Oh, Chad Smith going to work. No, you were not, Lauren. No, you were not. Mm-hmm. That was a fun show. Fun show. Really enjoyed that. Alicia, it might be my hoodie. It might be my hoodie. Kaiju, I have talked about my Bigfoot encounter a lot of times. Yes, Kirsten, I know it's so late in New York City. So late. I still want to travel to your city one day. On my bucket list is to attend a New York Yankees game. Live. We got 1 minute. All right, start to put your questions in now, if you don't mind, for the Magic 8 Ball. We will get to that. Big thank you to Nicola, to Space Cow, Alicia, Patrick, Science Bob, Spooky, Kirsten, Red Panda, Surf Jer, Starlight, and for the amazing super chats. Really appreciate you. Thank you to all the veterans tuning us in. We are going to get ready for the final half hour here. Let's do it. 5 seconds. We've rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. Really do appreciate earning your listening ears. Want to remind you that if you've missed most of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show. Let's get wacky. Let's get weird. It is time once again for the Magic 8 Ball. All right, we're going to take questions from our audience here. Well, the old Magic 8 Ball as we try and figure out some psychic connection and tell us, what does our future have? This is exploratory scientific phenomena happening here right now. We're going to start with our listener, Skip to Malou, who is asking, Magic 8 Ball, will my neighbor lose his job? I don't know why. I don't know what this is important for, but apparently that's a question. Not today, Sheriff. Not going to lose his job. Now we'll see if it happens. You'll have to update us on that one, Skip to Malou. All right, next question that we have from our audience. As we scroll on down, let's go to Paul Holland. Yes, Grand Paul Holland, who is asking, should Chad Smith start the Bad Influencer group? Well, Chad Smith is pretty badass around these parts, so let's see. All systems go, Grand Paul Holland in Australia. Absolutely, Chad Smith should. And why shouldn't he? He is an influencer on his own. The man has T-shirts available with his likeness on them. Gorgeous Teresa from California is asking, Magic 8 Ball, will there be a Vegas trip with Spaced Out Radio? The answer is, not today, Sheriff. Of course not. But good news, there are rumors, and we'll fill it out in the news, that the border could be opening very soon, like next month. And then we could start the planning. It'll probably be in 2022, to be honest with you, Teresa, because we're getting a little close. I hate to say the C word right now, but we're getting a little bit too close to Christmas. And people need to save up their money for their families and themselves. And then we got to pay off those credit card bills. And then we got another month where we got to start storing up. So I'm thinking April or May, we are going to do the Vegas party. Let's just hope that everything opens up. So no, it's not today, but I'm thinking spring of 2022 now. I think that's logical. All right, Elle is wondering, will Ohio legalize marijuana and show us the alien bodies at Wright-Patterson? I think the alien bodies are really at Area 51, somewhere underground. Batteries are low, which means that you ain't getting either. It's too bad. I think you'll probably get to have your hippie lettuce legalized, but, you know, the aliens, no, we're not getting that. Not even close right now. Sorry, Al. Flippity is asking, Dear Magic 8 Ball, what can I do to smell like love? All clear. You smell like love right now. Create a Tinder profile. Make it look juicy. Brush your teeth. Cologne. Eat pineapple. Yes, pineapple. All right, Spooky is asking, Magic 8 Ball, will the Los Angeles Dodgers win the World Series again for our buddy Fap? Let's see here. Out of fuel, try again later. That means the Dodgers will not win the World Series this year, and they shouldn't because my Yankees are out, and I'm just upset about that. Giving bad juju to the rest of baseball. As long as it's not them stinking, horrible, ought to be tossed out of the MLB Boston Red Sox. All right, Nicola's asking, will Dave ever put together a Dogman Roundtable? Not today, Sheriff. Very negative Magic 8 Ball today. Very negative. What? It's not happening today, but it is something. You got to find the right people. That's the thing. Got to find the right people. We'll look into that, I promise you. Starlight wants to know, Magic 8 Ball, is Queen Elizabeth alive? You know, there are people who live into their 90s, right? Of course she's alive. And no, she's not a reptilian. Well, Magic 8 Ball says, don't count on it. Are you being snarky right now, Magic 8 Ball? The answer is... Reply hazy, try again. Oh, I can see the Magic 8 Ball starting to play some games here. All right, Zero Cool is asking, Magic 8 Ball, is Luis Elizondo remote viewing me while I'm in the shower? And the answer is, you may have my pity. I don't know what that means, but if he is, you have the 8 Ball's pity right now. Doesn't sound good, does it? All right, D. Swagger wants to know, will we really have a dark winter? It does seem to be getting darker earlier this year. Like, normally, there's still some daylight around my area around 7 o'clock. Not this year. I don't know what it is. All right. Reply hazy, try again. Magic 8 Ball is not very cooperative. Come on, we're trying again. Sensors read no. Sensors read no. Go-Go Teresa wants to know, is Tom Hanks alive? Sensors read no. Magic 8 Ball is just being negative. What's so negative today, Magic 8 Ball? What's that? Thought I heard something. Nope. All right. Alicia is asking, all the way from the lovely state of Texas, is this huge orb that is following me everywhere extraterrestrial? Magic 8 Ball says, ask again later. Boy, what an attitude. You know, we have a segment on this show, man, that we need to do here. You've been sitting on your ass for like 2 weeks. So we had Vancouver last week. And that's the kind of answer you're going to give? Oh, man. This thing needs some, like, sage or Palo Santo wood or something. Is there a curse on my Magic 8 Ball? Answer is, not today, Sheriff. Are you just having an attitude today, Mr. 8 Ball? Answer is, you may have my pity. All right, so we got sarcastic Magic 8 Ball tonight. Let's go to Ross. Magic 8 Ball. Would Dave like to meet the Leon Lion Men, the race I know of since I was a child? I don't even know what the Leon Lion Men are. You have my pity. Boy, this is all over the place tonight. Kaiju wants to know, Magic 8 Ball, will I win the Powerball? Kaiju, that is. Not Dave, but Kaiju? Reply hazy. Try again. I don't think so, Kaiju. Try next week. Kira, will Dave have an extraterrestrial or Bigfoot event before the end of the year? Change up my shaking patterns here. Batteries low. No, I'm not feeling it, Kira. To be honest with you, I'm just not feeling it. Cranky Magic 8 Ball tonight. I apologize for its attitude. We're going to have a little speaking contest after this. Flippity wants to know, Magic 8 Ball, am I a sexy living god or not? Batteries low. Lots of batteries low, and you have my pity tonight. Very negative. Very negative. Kaiju wants to know, will SOR go to Burning Man? I actually do want to go to Burning Man. Just once, just to say I've done it. I'll probably get addicted. But will we do that one day? Look at that. After all that shaking, you may rely on it. We might be doing this. How cool would that be? Let's schedule it for like 2023. We'll all meet at Burning Man. Ed Parnell, yes, you could do the Vegas party remotely. All right, Big Willie is asking, Magic 8 Ball, will I still have to carry the burden of being a sexy lumberjack again tomorrow morning? Well, you got the beard for it. I'm not sure if you got the plaid shirt for it, but we'll find out. The answer is, sensors read no. You got tomorrow morning off, Big Will. You got tomorrow morning off. That's always nice. I got tomorrow morning off as well. Let's see here. Kaiju again. Magic 8 Ball. Will people eat breakfast for dinner in 2022? Sick question. Terrible. Answer is, my sensors say no. People will wake up and realize that breakfast foods are for breakfast and not just to eat whenever you want to eat something like that. Called breakfast foods for a reason. Health standards say you eat them in the morning. Sandra, we usually have to repeat her name 3 times. Hi, Sandra. Hi, Sandra. Hi, Sandra. Will I ever get to go to Australia? Sandra is asking the 8 Ball. Levels are positive. I can see that happening. Within the next couple of years, I can see that happening. I think it's a good one. That's a good goal. All right. What else do we have from our audience? Sandra again. Will the La Palma volcano explode? Well, let's see here. Intel looks good. You're so negative tonight. I believe that. All right. Behoff, 8 Ball. Hit me up. Is the Earth flat? All clear. Which means possibly. We don't know. We don't know. All right. Nikki. Is Magic 8 Ball, is Demi Lovato being guided? Answer is, all systems go. Of course she is. She's got handlers. She's got handlers. Pardon me, they have handlers. They have handlers. Chad Smith, will Dave Scott hire me as a full-time employee so I could quit my job and be the official SOR mascot? Oh, I'd love to. I'd love to. Answer is, keeps going on the end. Come on. Out of fuel, try again later. As in, not right now, Chad Smith. We need about 100 more radio stations and about 500,000 to 1 million more subscribers. Let's see here. right, Zero Cool. Magic 8 Ball, does Dave have Bigfoot DNA inside of him? I hope not. Don't count on it. Whew. I'm a free bird. I'm a free bird. You know what? I think that's it. I think we're good for the Magic 8 Ball tonight. It's awfully cranky. It's not playing very fair. I think we're going to give it a rest, get right to the news. The news is always changing, which is why Shirky Poo brings us the SOR Newswire at the back end of every show. We get to the weird, the strange, and the wacky, and finally, maybe the end of disruption. Oh, Canada, come on back. This is the message from the New York Post, where the Biden administration intends to reopen overland border crossings to neighbors to the north. That's us Canadians. We are no longer unwanted by the Americans. Very nice. Outside of radio, of course. Thank you, Chuck. Thank you, Len. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate you. And thank you, Ryan, over in Atlanta. Yep. Chuck Schumer said that he had received direct confirmation of the reopening plan from Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas. It would be the first time since the onset of COVID-19 pandemic in March 2020 that the world's longest land border opens to non-essential two-way travel traffic. Since the beginning of the pandemic, members of our shared border community have felt the pain and economic hardship of the land border closures. That pain is about to end. Hallelujah. Vegas, here we come. Anyways, Schumer said in a statement, very soon the link between New York and Canada will finally be reestablished, reuniting families, bolstering businesses, and ending a frustrating cycle of waiting for everyone involved. The Canadian government opened its border to vaccinated American travelers back on August 9th, but the Biden administration did not reciprocate. Currently, restrictions of non-essential travel from Canada are set to expire on October 21st. The slowness of the White House in the opening of the northern border exasperated lawmakers who represent communities near the frontier. We're not a frontier, we're a country, man. Anyways, the reduction in cross-border traffic has had significant impact on local economies along the northern border, including agriculture, small business, and tourism. These industries are the lifeblood of many northern border communities from New York to Montana that continue to inordinately feel the economic repercussions of the COVID-19 pandemic. In other words, we can finally get across the border so we can go to Target again, because there are no Targets in Canada. None. And Lord knows we could go to In-N-Out Burgers and baseball games and go watch the Seattle Kraken because they got gorgeous uniforms. Thank goodness. Crap's coming to an end. Love it. Moving on. Here's a scary one close by me. Ruth Hamilton was sound asleep last week when she was awoken by her dog barking, the sound of a crash through her ceiling, and the feeling of debris landing on her face. The resident of Golden, British Columbia stated. That's about 3 hours east of me. Anyways, she goes, I've never been so scared in my life, as she jumped out of bed and turned on the light to figure out what had happened, discovering a giant hole in her ceiling. So she called 911, not sure what to do. Speaking with the operator, flipped over her pillow and saw that a rock had slipped between two pillows. A police officer was immediately sent to investigate. Initially, the officer suspected the debris was from a construction site on a nearby highway, but it wasn't. No, it fell from the sky. It was a giant meteorite. They concluded it must have been a fragment from the meteor shower that took place earlier that night. She said the officer soon left, but she couldn't go back to sleep. She goes, I was in shock. I just sat there for a few hours shaking. The odds of that happening are so small, but I'm pretty grateful to be alive. No kidding. Wildlife officers in Colorado finally were able to free a bull elk that was spotted wandering with a tire around its neck the last 2 years. Colorado Parks and Wildlife say the elk was spotted just south of Pine Junction on Saturday, and officers responded to the search area. The agency said it was the fourth time in the past week that officers attempted to locate and tranquilize the elk. Wildlife officers Scott Murdoch and Dawson Swanson successfully tranquilized the animal, cut through its antlers so the tire could be lifted off the 600-pound elk's head. Great, you cut off its antlers when it needs them the most. Why not just cut the tire off? Well, the antlers would be easier. That's true. Anyways, the bull's neck is still a little sore, but it's expected to heal perfectly. We'd have preferred to have cut the tire and leave the antlers for its rutting activity, but the situation was dynamic and we just had to get the tire off any way possible. So you wait till the animal is looking good, trying to find a female elk to play a little nookie in the forest, and then you just ruined its chances. That's exactly what happened there. Thought of the Knave happens every night at this time, where we ask a question on our Facebook and Twitter pages, then read your responses on the air because we love the audience participation around here. Today's Thought of the Knave is as follows. What would be your first words to an alien? Mickle. I come in peace. Show me your meaty toes. Nasty, man. Mike. Dave? Dave's not here. Try BC. Melinda. Get the hell off me. Mark. Are you hungry? Joe. If you're smart, turn around and get away from here. Filth. Don't mess around with the grizzly bears. Jesse. Do you know Chad Smith? Marilyn. E.T. Phone home. Averup. Klaatu Barada Nikdo. Crystal. How's it going? Wu-Tang. Tell me about God. Sally. Holy crap, you are real. Andrew. You smoke? Passes a J to an E.T. David. Star Wars or Star Trek? Costume. Are you vaccinated? Yeah, well, one time. Do you like potatoes? Strafe. Do you know how much you corrupted Mork? Damn you, Orson. That's funny. That is funny. Nathaniel. Carol Baskin. Andrew. Do you like sharks? Gail. Dave Scott's in Canada. He likes you. I do not. Now point your ship north and get out. Shirky Poo, always with the strong words against the aliens. Thank you to Shirky Poo, everybody playing along in the Thought of the Dave, the great news, and of course, everyone participating in the Magic 8 Ball, and Jay King talking about experiencers. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal rocking in the background with Little Brother is watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at home, at work, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight, YouTube, Twitch, LGAB, Revolution Radio, Spreaker, Facebook, the Space Travelers Club, and on Twitter at hashtag Spaced Out Radio.
I know you're out there somewhere.
Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends,
we're watching.
We own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo Train has docked for the night, but soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night.